morning, Dr. Samudra, Dr. Saha, Dr. Basura,
all
my junior colleagues. Today we'll discuss apparently three simple cases which looks very common initially, but if we review when we review the cases come out to be something else. So how to look into a case and where we could miss even the simple diagnoses, that is our aim of this presentation. Our first case is a son of one of our staff. Is a 3-year-old boy. He had a small history of low-grade fever for 1-2 days, but since then there was a refusal to take food and there was sore throat, though there was no cough or breathlessness or expectoration like that. So initially it was thought to be a case of common cold, but as there was no cough, no expectoration, it was seen by an outside doctor. The staff resides in Behala, that is why. Now, this is not exactly the case. This case, for highlighting, I have taken from net. There is the lesions are like that. There are small vesicular eruptions on the buccal mucosa or on the cheek. There are some vesicle-like eruption on the lip, that may be inside the cheek, that may be on the palate, on tongue, etc. So the lesions were exactly like this. There are 8 to 10 papules and vesicles, fluid-filled vesicles, clear fluid, on lip, cheek, tongue, and palate. And some of the ulcers, some of the vesicles or papules, those get burst and they look like shallow ulcers. But those were very painful, for which the baby was not very keen to take any food. So naturally it was diagnosed to be a case of herpes labialis. But the patient came to me after 3-4 days, and as often the second doctor who examines is luckier than the first one in many cases, review cases, because by that time when the patient comes to a second doctor, by that time the clinical features are more florid and you can at least exclude the diagnosis which have been done by the previous doctor. So I was, in this case, I was the lucky one. What's very striking that there was no as such group vesicular eruption as we usually see in herpes, both in zoster and simplex. And by that time we examined the hand and feet of the baby, and there were like this similar vesicular eruption on the hand and feet. It is not on the palms and soles, it was on the hands and feet, because the border and dorsum there were also some lesions. The typical lesion was not exactly circular, it was somewhat oval type, and there was a hyperemic border surrounding the lesion. So that aroused and suspicion, and we thought that whether it can be a case of hand, foot and mouth disease. On inquiry it was known that few children in the same school or in the same surrounding, they have similar things. So we thought that this is not a case of simple herpes simplex or aphthous ulcer. That was diagnosed as a case of hand, foot and mouth disease. I would like to tell us a few salient features about that disease. There are episodes of periodic epidemic outbreak of hand, foot and mouth disease. It has been published from many countries, mostly the China, Taiwan, this area. In our Calcutta also there have been a massive outbreak of hand, foot and mouth disease around Park Circus area during this year. about 4-5 months back, and during that period, three cases of hand-foot mouth disease I got opportunity to look into, and maybe as just before that I had attended a clinical meeting at Institute of Child Health, and there this case was talked about and a few cases were shown. So it was a bit easier for me to have that suspicion in my mind and ultimately diagnose this case. Nothing very great about it, but the thing is that for herpes you have to take acyclovir, and for hand, foot and mouth disease, as we see, it is a Coxsackie A6 virus borne disease, and it may be contagious, would spread through fecal route. It requires only symptomatic treatment, no antiviral treatment is required, and it is self-limiting always, and there is not much complications, or rather which can cause severe morbidity or mortality in the long run. For few days, about 6-7 days, the baby remains very ill and very irritated, but after 7, 8, 10 days, it can resume its all work day-to-day life. The incubation period is about 3 to 6 days, and duration is 7 to 10 days altogether. By 10 days, the baby becomes alright. So this is the thing that we think that this is a case of. We thought initially that this might be a case of herpes labialis or aphthous ulcer, but it came to be a case of hand, foot and mouth disease, because the hand and foot lesions, they came after 1-2 days, and when I examined the baby, then all the lesions were very florid, and I could assess that this is not a case of simple herpes labialis. The second case, it's a 20-year-old male. He had presented with a round solitary nodule on earlobe, one of his earlobes, right earlobe. It was a firm, smooth and glistening, very small, about half a centimeter diameter. It was non-tender, and there was a query history of trauma. He says that he tried to have ear piercing. That is the lesion you can see. So it was non-tender, it was quite shiny, and absolutely like a globular thing, like that cherry hemangiomas which we come across on our trunk. It was not red, it was of skin colored though. Cherry, had it been red colored, the first diagnosis which comes in our mind is definitely solitary angioma of the pinna. So we thought that whether this is a case of neurofibroma or keloid. This is not this is not very unusual. You cannot blame someone if he diagnoses this case as neurofibroma or keloid, because it looks globular, it looks like solitary neurofibroma on pinna is a documented entity. And as there had been a history of ear piercing, and the lesions appeared on the pinna, that may be a people may think that is a case of keloid in the early stage, because it was progressive in nature. But as usual, when the patient belongs to Purulia, when he came to me after being referred, there was about I got 1 month advantage, and so I had seen that there were few similar globular shiny lesions on his forehead. Now that also may be misdiagnosed as a case of acne, seborrheic hyperplasia, molluscum contagiosum, like that. But I examined his forearm. Both forearm, there were few small papulonodular lesions. Now then, as the subject belonged to Purulia, and he had many papulonodular eruptions almost spreading over his face and extremities, and which were asymptomatic. So I thought whether this case I am dealing with something other than which the previous doctor has thought. And I asked him to expose his other body parts, but I didn't find any hypopigmented lesion. I didn't find any hypoaesthetic or anesthetic patch. I didn't find any area of hypotrichosis. Neither he described any localized burning pain or tingling numbness. Neither there was any history of any wound which he could not appreciate. So then the only option I was left with to go for a histopathological examination. I had done that histopathological examination from his one of the forearm lesion, send it to the pathologist here, and I had seen the slide myself also, because the pathologist was so excited after seeing that slide. She called me, and the feature was the histological feature. It showed the flattened epidermis. There were spindle separate histiocytes around the appendages. That means the hair follicles, the sebaceous glands, etc. The sweat glands, and but the appendages were intact. Appendages were not involved. The structure of appendages were absolutely intact. All the hair follicles, the sebaceous gland, the sweat glands were appreciable, and no texture was lost of the appendages. And the stain for the lepra bacilli was strongly positive. It looks nice. The lepra bacilli is on the very light purple background. The lepra bacilli, it looks very dazzlingly red, and it gives a very fine texture. And that lepra bacilli stain was strongly positive. And what was very striking, that the leprae bacilli, as such, what we come across the cases of multibacillary leprosy histopathology cases, these bacilli were seemed a bit longer in size. So our precise diagnosis was a case of histoid leprosy. Histoid leprosy is not very common, and usually in our country or in African countries usually come across where leprosy is very aggressive in nature, and the bacilli also have gone through numerous mutations. So a few words about histoid leprosy. It is uncommon variety of multibacillary leprosy, and usually it is seen after inadequate treatment, when the treatment with multi-drug is not complete, or with irregular treatment, that the person does not take multi-drug therapy on a regular basis. But it rarely occurs de novo, that in a patient primarily presenting as a case of histoid leprosy is very rare. Usually it is after irregular or inadequate treatment with multibacillary drugs, or where we require multibacillary drug therapy, we give polybacillary drug therapy, then we come across this histoid leprosy. Male is to female ratio is 2:1, and very interesting thing about that histoid leprosy, that though it is a multibacillary variety, it does not present as like a multibacillary leprosy. There is no hypopigmented patch or any anesthetic patch like that, and there is no chance of any lepra reaction. If there is any lepra reaction, it is mild variety of lepra type 1, but lepra type 2 variety is almost never seen in histoid leprosy. So few people think it is a variant of multibacillary, few people think it is a entity itself. So the beauty of that case is that it is a de novo case of histoid leprosy which did not have any prior exposure to any multibacillary drug therapy. That is quite rare. But as the patient came from Purulia, and there was I was suspicious about the location of the lesions. We had done histopathology, and through histopathology the diagnosis was confirmed. Our third case, a 44-year-old lady, she presented with gradually progressive eruptions on lumbosacral area, on lateral and back thigh, on extensor arms and forearms over a period of more than 2 years. And the lesions, when active, they remained active and they looked hyperpigmented. There are small papular eruptions, multiple. There was no seasonal variation because the exacerbation was due to some during summer, during winter, during any part of the year, and there was no systemic illness of that lady, and there was no, on inquiry we found no family history of similar eruption in other family members or his or her ancestors. The lesion looked like that. Initially, there were this sort of lesions, the lumbosacral area. There were multiple small papular lesions which were dark in color. On the arms and forearms, these were much more appreciable. The multiple small lesioning, hyperpigmented lesions. Usually, we come across such lesions in atopic dermatitis. So, no confusion, no wrong in diagnosis this case as a lichenified eczema. It diagnosed as a case of lichenified eczema. This patient also belonged to other place, and she came with a referral. It was a diagnosed case of lichenified eczema. But which was very striking that there was no pruritus, there was no itching in this patient. Now, this sort of atopic eczema with so much involvement with no pruritus is not acceptable. We cannot correlate, we cannot justify. So, now, and strikingly, though she had been given topical steroids at times during that 2 years time, she said that there was no improvement with any topical corticosteroid. So, and she had given a history that during starting part of the lesion, we started on the lumbosacral area itself. There were few erythematous flaky lesions on her face, around the nasolabial fold, around the forehead, on the hair margin, on the eyebrow, like that. And there are at times there are exudations of dandruff on her hair, and at that times the face also in the nasolabial area that becomes more red, and there are flakes on it. And on examination, when examining that, what we thought that we had seen that the lesions, they have a typical pattern. First thing, these few lesions, these are very glistening, and there is a absolutely net-like reticular or linear pattern in the lesions. Now, from this picture we can see this area, a reticular pattern is appreciable, either this area also. This is, and all the lesions are almost looks like each of the lesions, they look alike. In atopic, we usually come across lesions in the polymorphic form, pleomorphic form, that some lesions are very active, some lesions are not so active, some lesions are quiescent. But here, all the lesions, they are dark, they are almost of the similar morphology, and they are in the reticular or linear pattern. So then I thought whether it is, and in the absence of itching and with history of no improvement with corticosteroid, whether this is a case of eczema or this is something else. The thigh areas were involved. This area not much appreciable, but the darkening is there. This area also a reticular pattern. The area where there is no involvement, that area is absolutely fine. That area is absolutely healthy. So again, we had done histopathology. The histopathology showed hyperkeratosis, parakeratosis, irregular acantholysis, and lymphocyte infiltration in upper dermis. Basically, this is not the picture of the same slide. This is picture. Picture has taken from net. hyperkeratosis, you see the stratum corneum level gets thickened. It is just for academic. The stratum hyperkeratosis, the stratum corneum becomes more thick. Then the acantholysis means there is loss of cohesion in the cells in the epidermis. That is a sign of chronic inflammation of the skin. And there is a parakeratosis. That means that the skin cell traveling time from the stratum basally to the stratum corneum is shortened. That is why there is retention of the nuclei in the cells in the upper layer, like stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum. There is retention of the nuclei. At times, the stratum granulosum we cannot find stratum granulosum due to the retention of the nuclei in the cells. So, with that clinical picture, with that history, with that histopathological find, we diagnose this is a case of keratosis lichenoides chronica, which is commonly known as Nikam's disease. The disease is also known as lichen verrucosus a reticularis or porokeratosis striata lichenoides. It is a not very common case, and diagnosis is through histopathology only. A few words about this disease, because this is only this case may be not very known to us, the name of this disease. So this is a rare disease, and it is acquired chronic amaurosis. That is not, it is from childhood or not infancy, and it is not hereditary. No, it is not that in this case also none of our family members were involved, and it progressed over several years and very indolent course, very resistant to therapy, and at times it gets less flares. Then people think that the response is due to the therapy, but it is very resistant to any sorts of therapy. And that is the pathognomonic sign, that keratotic papules in parallel lines of small network, the reticular pattern or the linear pattern. That is the very suggestive thing. And it also, this case again came after 4-6 weeks to me, because they were reluctant to come. Ultimately, the doctor at the division talked with me, and they could convince the patient to come once. And I also initially the first visit, I was also not very, I was not thought anything beyond that lichenified eczema, but on review but initially that pattern was very striking, so I had gone through the books and through the nets, and then I could go for that histopathology and diagnose. This is not a very common case, and we usually do not come across often. And one thing that the patient had given a history of recurrent aphthous ulcer. So keratosis lichenoides chronica, that may affect oromucosa or genital mucosa. So later I thought whether that was the same lesion in the oral mucosa which the patient thought or the doctor thought as a aphthous ulcer. And the nails also were a bit ridge were seen, and she told that the nails becomes brittle at times. So all these I correlate after the histopathology. So nail mucosa, palm and sole involved in 30% cases. So in our case there was no palm and sole involvement, no tylosis, no keratoderma. In some cases they disappear spontaneously. And when it disappears, there is no residual scar, there is no pigmentation. When it gets resolved, it gets resolved completely. There is no residual scarring. And topical therapy is ineffective. So that is why with any amount of topical therapy, steroid, bit potent, super potent, whatever, it does not yield any result. And only treatment advocated, though not very guaranteed, is Soralen plus ultraviolet and acid treating. As this case comes from a division, I didn't try acid creatine because acid creatine requires regular follow-up and regular platelet count, LFT and lipid profile. We had treated with safer option that Sorlen with UVA. Now, in absence of UVA, I had asked her to take Sorlen 2 days a week and get exposed to the sunlight 2 hours after the taking Sorlen for 4 or 5 minutes. Now, with that, till now there is not much improvement, and but it requires time, and let us see about the progress of the disease. So these are 3 cases. First case, that hand, foot and mouth disease, as I were aware of the epidemic at that time, and I had seen a few cases in Institute of Child Health. It became possible for me to diagnose that case as hand, foot and mouth disease. The second case also from the history, from the distribution pattern, and from the, as the patient had come from Purulia, there was a suspicion which was confirmed by histopathology. And in the third case also, the history of that patient, that it did not respond to the steroid, and the typical reticular pattern that made, so for that it was, I would like to use the word easy for me to diagnose, but it is not, so it was possible for me to diagnose these cases. Otherwise, probably it would not have been possible for me to diagnose or come to that diagnosis. Many cases we may miss, many cases we may find at the first attempt, but very few cases give us so much pleasure as diagnosing or re-diagnosing as a review case. That is the pleasure in our profession, and for that I presented these 3 cases. Thank you.
Two people can be right. Would you just
so the photographs.
Name first one.
First to last. Recapitulate.
Recapitulation with compensation.
Late come late speaker punishment.
Compensation with compensation.
Why did he start so early?
So this continuous updating, this only brings out the importance of continuous updating and experience.
Exactly.
Because I remember my daughter having this foot and mouth disease, and she was having her exams at that time, and I was extremely worried. I just got to Dr. Majumdar. By that time, he has already seen a few cases. I just took him 2 minutes to diagnose. He told me, assured me, and I went back home. So this is really.
That is the thing. The parents get very alarmed. The babies get very alarmed, and whether they should take acyclovir or not. That is the most important issue. That for herpes, you have to take acyclovir, and acyclovir has to be started within 48 hours, 72 hours. And in this case, you do not give acyclovir because this is self-limiting. So. In the presence of severe irritation, in the presence of severe illness, even the children who are breathing in pain, they also believes it. And children nowadays are very intelligent from very early age. And when you tell them that this is here and this is due to that thing, and within 5-6 days this will get cured of its own, they become convinced, and that gives you that satisfaction that your patient, he accepts that, okay, I have to suffer for that duration. As I have finished much early, I had seen an interview of Dr. Devi Shetty. Then in the interview he was asked that, doctor, every day many patients, parents, they catch hold your feet and tell that, doctor, you are God to us. What is your feeling? Devi Shetty answered, it was about 4 or 5 years back, I had seen in the television, but till date I remember, that he tells that this is nothing special or nothing new to a doctor's life. Doctors are being honored or considered God from very early career. That is nothing new. That does not give them any more pleasure or satisfaction. But what gives me more satisfaction is that if I fail to survive a life, a patient dies, And the parents come and tell me that, doctor, we know that you have tried your best and nothing more could be done, and we are very sad that our kid have passed away, but we are also satisfied that whatever could be possible on earth, we have done it by rendering the responsibility to your hand. That gives me a tremendous pleasure. So as a doctor, we should keep that in mind, that in career many things may come, many hardship may come, many obstacles may come, but this thing, it is of paramount importance. For that thing, you can walk 100 years or 100 miles.